This tutorial will go over the basics of masking. I'll show you 3 different ways to work with a mask, and I'll be using fireworks for this tutorial, but the same ideas apply to masks in any program, including Photoshop. So to get started, I've loaded up a picture of a celebrity. We have David Lynch here. I picked him because he has amazing hair, and we're just going to use him as an example of what a mask does. So I have him on a bitmap layer here, layer 1, and I'm going to go over to my vector tools, and I'm going to hold my click down and choose an ellipse tool. Now in my properties box, all the different options come up. I'd like it to be a black oval. That's solid. And I'm just going to start up here and draw an oval over top of his entire head. Okay. I'm just going to grab the arrow and make sure it's all more or less covered. Now we see that I have an ellipse layer and my photograph on a different layer. I'm just going to cut that shape away and then click on my photo layer again. Now what I'm going to do here is, instead of pasting, I'm going to go paste as mask, and it's going to take that vector shape, that oval, and it's going to paste it as a mask on my photograph. So you can see what that did. What a mask basically does is shows part of an image and hides another part. In this case, the vector shape cut out a hole, and it's showing us what's within that shape, that path, and it's hiding everything else. So if we look over here on our layers, we now have a mask linked to the photograph, and we can actually unlink those by clicking on the little chain there, and we can move the mask around independently of the photo. And then of course if we link them together, they'll move together. So that's one way to use a vector mask. I'm going to show you with the same photo an example of a bitmap mask. But before I do that, I'd just like you to know that it doesn't necessarily have to be a shape, a preset shape that you have. I could make a shape that is drawn with the pen tool or the line tool, and it would still have the same effect. So I'll just draw like a kind of a keyhole shape here, and then if I shift and select both of those, I can combine them. Okay, and now I have, again, the same as before, a shape on one layer that I'm going to cut away, and then I can paste it as a mask. And there we go. Has the same effect. So now let's try out a bitmap mask. Before I get to that, I'm going to add another layer to my image here, just so it's more obvious what the mask is doing. I'm going to open up this picture of clouds, select it all, and copy it. And then I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it underneath my photograph of David here. Now, we just saw that a vector path can cut out a mask, but we can also do fills or gradient fills and use them as a mask too. So I just clicked on the paint bucket there and held down my click so I could choose the gradient tool. And then again my properties pop up and I can choose what type of gradient I want. For this example I'm going to use a radial gradient. That's kind of a circular shape. And I'm just going to click on that, and I want it to be white in the center and black on the outside. I'm just going to move this over a little more so there's more white and less black. Okay, now that I have that set up, I can just click and drag the path I want my gradient to take. Okay, and then I have a white center with the black around the outside. The one thing I forgot to do was to do that on its own separate layer. So I'm going to go over here and add a layer and then do that. That way it's not on the same layer as my photograph. Now I can take this layer, select all of it, and cut it just like before, and we're going to do the same thing. Go on the photo layer and paste as a mask. You can see what it did there. Anything that is white in the mask you can see through. As it starts to get gray, it becomes less transparent, it starts to become translucent. And then anything that was black on that mask layer is totally gone in the photograph. So it's showing the clouds underneath, anything that was black. And anything that was white is maintaining the photograph. So if I take the clouds away, you can see that transparency and the fade into the opaque center. But like I said before, that was not a vector, that was a bitmap image, that gradient that we used. Now there's one other way, a neat trick you can do with a vector mask, and it uses a slightly different method, so I'll show that to you quickly too. I'm going to make a new file. Just going to pick a size, say 700 by 500, and a transparent background. And I'm just going to grab my text tool here and just type something up. Let me drag that over so we can read it. Okay, and I'm just going to choose a font that's a little bit fatter than that so it's more obvious what we're doing here. There we go, funny looking medieval font. And why don't I crank up the font size just a little bit, and we could zoom in. I have that, and now I'm going to open up a file that I have that is just a pattern or texture. Here we have some nice blurred out circles, and I'm going to select all of that and copy it. And if I go back here to my text and I have my text selected, I can choose not paste as mask, but paste inside. And it'll take that image that I just copied and paste it inside my vector text. Now that doesn't look all that interesting right now, but I can go in and resize what I pasted behind. Let me shrink that. And because it's unlinked, I can drag it over. And there you have it. I can add a texture or color scheme or a pattern inside of text by using that paste inside trick. So it's basically the opposite of the first mask that we used. This time we had a vector and we pasted a bitmap inside of it. And in the first example I copied the vector and pasted it as a mask onto the photograph, which was a bitmap. So those are a few ways that you can use masks to easily cut out shapes in Fireworks or in Photoshop. Thanks for watching.